Cue the spotlights, shine them bright. Gonna have a brand new show tonight. With glitz and glam on the marquee. Perhaps a Tony nominee. Stars beam brightly, see them glow. Sell out nightly, SRO. It's time to applaud the Broadway Beat. Stars beam brightly, see them glow. In the footlights of a show. Life is sweet on the world's most famous street.
Tickets, please.
Take a seat.
Cue the band.
And have your feet to the rhythm of the Broadway Beat. The Broadway Beat. Broadway Beat.
Hello, I'm Richard Ridge, and welcome to Broadway Beat, our behind-the-scenes look at the very best of what the New York theater has to offer. This week we have two of the theater's finest return home, and we have a Broadway debut. Television personality and Dancing with the Stars finalist Mario Lopez makes his Broadway debut in the role of Zach in the hit revival of Michael Bennett's Pulitzer Prize and Tony Award-winning musical A Chorus Line. We'll also drop by the opening night celebration of director Rupert Gould's riveting new production of Macbeth, starring the renowned Patrick Stewart. This production comes to Broadway's Lyceum Theater after a sold-out run at BAM. But let's start things off with Tony Award-winning star of stage and screen Lawrence Fishburne, who's getting ready to open at the Booth Theater on April 30th in the new one-man show Thurgood, which is based on the life of civil rights great and Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. It's written by George Stevens Jr. and is directed by Leonard Foglia. We caught up with all three men during a break in rehearsal.
Well, we had this wonderful opportunity that James Earl agreed to do it for 3 weeks up in Westport. And, it is such a wonderful experience to see something you've written on the stage and have the opportunity to adjust it and sharpen it. So after that 3-week performance, I did some rewriting and reshaped it, and we sent it to Lawrence, and Lawrence decided he wanted to do it, and so here we are, and here we go.
Well, let's talk about why you think he's so wonderful.
Well, I'm fascinated. I was with someone the other day who said, Lawrence Fishburne, I've seen The Matrix 20 times. Well, of course, this person didn't know that Lawrence had done Othello on the stage and Lion in Winter, and that he's this actor of great resources. And he brings a vitality and intelligence and humor, which is very important for this play, to the project. And so I'm thrilled, really, to be working with Lawrence.
Out of curiosity, intellectual to intellectual, how in the name of bleeding Jesus can you lose me? Do you ever see me? Am I ever with you, ever near you? Am I ever anywhere but somewhere else?
I'm not concerned about your geographical location.
Do we write? Do I send messages? Do dinghies bearing gifts float up the Thames to you? Are you remembered?
You are?
Oh, you are no part of me. We do not touch at any point. How can you lose me?
Can't you feel the change?
You know enough to know I can't be stopped.
But I don't have to stop you.
But the exciting thing about Lawrence is that Lawrence is the exact same age that Thurgood Marshall was when he presented the Brown versus Board of Education argument before the Supreme Court. And a bulk of the play takes place there. And having him at that age, so we're doing it through a different prism. We go through, as we tell the story of Thurgood Marshall, we reenact things through, the best way to put it is the prism of his memory. And so we are reenacting things and telling things from a different perspective now.
And talk about working with Lawrence Fishburne as an actor and this whole process of working with him.
Well, Lawrence is an extremely skilled, visceral human being. And he works through his body, and he works through his, he finds it in a very exciting way. I'm one of those directors that sits around the table for weeks on end until actors are really ready to kill me because of when are you going to stage this play. And I knew that this particular piece, because its unusual structure, my whole process would have to be different. If you're doing a play with a large number of people, or operas as I've done with 75 people, you truly have to be the captain of the ship and run it. And when there's one man, it's different. It's sort of like two men sailing a boat together, and there really isn't a captain. You're a team working together, and we had to find a different way of working for both of us. And our second day of rehearsal, we were up on our feet, moving around in a way that I've never done, in a way that he's never done, and we realized instantly it was a way to discover how to tell this story most correctly, was to get out of our heads and onto our feet and moving. And he's a thrilling, brave, one of the bravest actors I've ever worked with. And when I say brave, I mean he's not scared to try anything.
James Earl Jones is over here, Morgan Freeman is over there, Terrence Howard is over here, Felicia Rashad is over there. It's very nice.
And you work in every medium, but you always come home to the theater. Why is that? What does it mean to you?
It's church for actors, There's no buffer, there's no distance, there's no handlers, there's nobody between you and the audience. There's nobody between you and the audience. So the experience that you have is so intimate, and it's so thrilling, and it's so immediate. There's nothing like a live performance. And that's how I learned how to be an actor. I learned playing live in front of people. So it strengthens the instrument, and it also adds texture to the other work. When you work in the medium of film, or when you work in the medium of television, if you've worked in the theater, you have to use a little bit more of your imagination. Your imagination really is one of your strongest tools, and you have to use it. You also have to use it in film, but sometimes not as much. And if you can bring some of that theatrical quality to the film work, I just think it adds to it.
Well, let's talk about this play. When you first got George Stevens' script, what went through your mind when you read it?
There were a couple of things. I didn't know very much about Mr. Marshall. I knew he was a Supreme Court justice, but that happened when we were all like kids. I knew that was a big deal, but I didn't know anything about his journey and how he got there. So in reading the script, what you learn in the script is not just his professional history. You learn about his personal history and why he became a lawyer, and how he was shaped and formed by events in his life, early in his life, that really did sort of push him in the direction that he went, in terms of being a champion of civil rights, becoming a lawyer, having a kind of ferocity and tenacity in terms of the way that he argued. And his history runs parallel with the history of our country. His life, looking at his life, you learn a lot about the history of our country, which I think is important.
Challenges of a one-man show.
I'm just about to find out what those are. The big one is I've never really played anything where I had to break the fourth wall. And this is, the fourth wall goes down from word go. And it's just me talking to the audience, and the audience responding however they decide to. So the challenge will be, in staying the course and following George's words and not getting involved in a real conversation with the audience.
Let's go back to the rehearsal room for a second. Leonard was telling me how he sort of works and all. What's that whole experience been like for you? Because it's just the three of you in the room.
It's been great. What we've been able to do, we had 2 weeks in Los Angeles, which was really great because it isolated us from everything that's going on here. New York is very busy, as you know. Los Angeles is much quieter. So it really allowed us to focus in on the material and really, really work at strengthening the material, finding out the things that we didn't really need, finding out where we could improve on things, because George was in the room and was available to all of that. So it was a really great process.
And you got it up on its feet immediately in the rehearsal room, didn't you? Didn't you want to get up and start working?
Yeah, I mean, the only way to figure it out is just to start doing it. So I got up, I guess, after... No, I was up at the end of the first week. I mean, I was on my feet doing the bits that I knew. Yeah.
Up to today, what's been the best part of the experience for you with working on this so far?
It's been the moments that I've had with George and Lenny in the room where we stop and go, okay, why isn't this working? And how do we make it work better? Those have been really, those things, some of them it's been tedious to find them, but we're going to get the payoff when the audience comes.
One of the theater's finest, Patrick Stewart, returns to Broadway in the title role of Shakespeare's murder-filled tragedy Macbeth in the Chichester Theatre Festival production under the superb direction of Rupert Gould. This production comes to Broadway's Lyceum Theatre after a sold-out run at BAM. The production also co-stars Mr. Gould's wife, the wonderful Kate Westwood, as Lady Macbeth. We caught up with Mr. Stewart and the company at their opening night celebration.
If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success, that but this blow might be the be-all and the end-all here, but here upon this bank and shoal of time, we jump the life to come.
It's been incredible. I mean, we've been from the Minerva down in Chichester through to the West End and now to BAM and then to Broadway, and then they're different spaces, different audiences. I have to say, and I'm meaning this genuinely, the American audiences have been fantastic, so engaged and focused, and willing to go with the concept of the play, and we're kind of living the dream. It's fantastic. Shakespeare on Broadway, it's amazing.
Well, let's talk about your look. It's so extremely visual. I love the look of your shows, and you're very influenced by film when you direct, aren't you?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, very much so, actually. I mean, there are 5 or 6 films that are sort of central to this production, and I think maybe that's, in Britain we come from predominantly a literary tradition in the theatre world, but I've always looked, I suppose, more to the visual imagination of filmmakers, and you're trying to use the grammar of film on stage a little bit. And in some ways it might seem showy or kind of self-regarding, but we just try and make it exciting and visceral and scary above all. We want to make the play scary.
You made all those things, but you made it very accessible. I've always found this play very hard to sit through. But it was so wonderful, your production. It was so right there, and you could understand everything, specifically the first act. Yeah. Was the first act hard for you to work on?
The first act is incredibly difficult. That's very obscure to you, actually. We were talking today in the rehearsals today about it, because the language is really hard in the first 3 or 4 scenes. At least 2 of them probably aren't written by Shakespeare, some of the witches stuff. How do you do witches? I mean, how do you make sense of that in a modern world? There's a big civil war going on that doesn't really affect the rest of the play. So we just did a lot of work on it to try and... In fact, what was interesting is in the first act, we tried to treat it as one single act, one scene, rather than lots of different scenes at a kind of field hospital. And, we're sort of proud of the way that gives it an energy into... Of course, when you get onto the murder story, suddenly it kind of kicks in a way that everyone can connect with.
Is it scary? Because that's what he wanted. He wanted to make it scary, and I'm part of the scariness. Rupert's he's an extraordinarily detailed and patient and calm and inventive and accommodating person, and a delightful director to work for.
What's been the best part of the experience with doing the show in America?
Now, that's a hard one. What's the best part of my experience? I think how much the audiences have been really warm. I mean, warmer than British audiences, which has been very gratifying for us, really rewarding. It's nice to see people genuinely sort of giving us all that affirmation.
It's a great time to be here, so enjoy your time in New York.
And will not fail when Duncan is asleep, whereto the rather shall his day's hard journey soundly invite him. His 2 chamberlains will I, with wine and wassail, so convince that memory, the warder of the brain, shall be a few, and the receipt of reason a limbeck only, when, In swinish sleep, their drenched natures lies as in a death. What cannot you and I perform upon the unguarded Duncan? What not put upon his spongy officers who shall bear the guilt of our great quell?
For men, children only. For thy undaunted metal should compose nothing but males.
Let's talk about this great role of Lady Macbeth and playing opposite Patrick Stewart.
Oh, he's dreadful. he's brilliant, and I love him, and we're great mates, and we have a great time, and I'm probably a little over motherly to him, you might say, but we share a lot of the same ideas, and we really enjoy our time on stage together, and we're great friends and you know, I'd never worked with him before, and I don't think he'd ever heard of me. But from the moment we started working on it, I mean, really, with absolutely no problem with my husband being the director either. I mean, because we work together quite a lot, and, you know, so that's no issue anymore. He's very generous, and he's warm, and he's imaginative, and he's free, and he doesn't, you know, castigate me if I put the cup in the wrong position, or and we're very supportive of each other, and it's just been a dream, and we just try and find something else we can do together, but it's been wonderful, you know, and I'm also incredibly pleased for him that this has gone so well for him.
And what do you love about the role?
Sorry?
The role of Lady Macbeth.
I didn't think I could ever do it, but excuse me, I mean, this is my 10th Shakespeare. So it was definitely down on my list. but because our interpretation means that she's a bit younger than him, I didn't expect I'd play it now. I thought I'd play it when I was in my 40s. But it's an incredible role. I mean, though it turns on a sixpence very quickly. You have to really, really chart her demise down into her madness. And that happens very quickly. But most of Shakespeare's roles, that happens. It's a very quick shift from feeling one thing and then feeling another. And you have to do it in the line. You can't, you know, there's no time to sort of be acting on stage going, is everyone getting how I'm feeling? You know.
At what point during the process did you say, I really have a grasp on her now, I really know who she is?
Well, that always comes when you're learning the lines. Because, and I do it very, you know, physically. I go home and I put the kitchen table back in the corner and I stand and I just try it out. And I'm learning, I'm just crunching the lines. But it's in that moment, really, that you're starting to really feel the rhythm of the language and how it's affecting you. Because it's a physiological relationship, the actor, the tool of the voice and the language, particularly in Shakespeare. And that's why it's so, you know, attractive to do Shakespeare. So it was then that I thought, oh, I'm with it. And also because I had a great director who's telling me how to do it.
Macduff, well, I started from the premise that I think that he's probably the antithesis of Macbeth. If Macbeth is all those things that, you know, that we find out that he is, and is corruptible in that way, I think Macduff is his almost polar opposite. And in the rehearsals, what I explored was that there was almost a chemical reaction between the two of them, that actually they didn't really get on because they were very different men. Macduff, as we know, is a family man, and does his job in the state as a soldier and a statesman and politician, but also his family is very important. And there's something kind of wholesome, about the Macduffs, I always felt, as opposed to the Macbeths. I mean, you'd like to maybe spend an evening with the Macduffs, whereas the Macbeths you'd be a little wary.
Oh, New York has been my second home now for a good many years, and I feel the warmth of the welcome and the extraordinary response of the audiences here in New York. Really, there is nowhere else. I was last night at the Actors Company benefit, the Sondheim evening, and I wish I could have brought the entire company with me, because that was such a Broadway night, and I wish they could have had a taste of what a musical Broadway night can really be like, you know. But this is, we're being treated very well.
Well, tell me what it's been like working on this role and working with this production.
I've never been in this play before. It's avoided me for almost 50 years, and yet
I learned all those soliloquies when I was 13, 14. So it's been in my life. I just haven't had a chance to connect all the dots together before. And Rupert Gould, with whom I have done back-to-back productions, because we did A Tempest at Stratford, followed by the Macbeth 6 months later. We seem to have a good rapport, an easy, comfortable rapport, and he creates such extraordinary environments for his actors to work in. And makes his production so interesting. You know, we are hurtling towards our 175th performance of Macbeth. That's a lot of Macbeths. It's not a lot of, of Gypsy. It's not a lot of, but it's a lot of Macbeths. And I'm still as interested in the role as I was on day one, which was just over a year ago, and find every performance completely completely fascinating.
Talk about the audiences. When I was at BAM, there were so many young people there that were so riveted to this piece. Talk about the audience's reaction.
Well, the audience reaction to this play has been important for us from the very beginning. When we began life in a small studio theatre on the south coast of England, and here we are now 100 meters from Times Square. The audiences have been very important to us because initially, and this is everywhere we've been, excuse me, Chichester, the West End of London, BAM, and now here, they have simply accepted the setting and context of this production. It's not always easy. It's challenging, this production. They have just bought into it entirely, and that makes our life so much easier. The other thing that has happened, the one principal thing since we came to the United States, is that audiences here have yet again shown an English theatre company what is witty, what is ironic and funny about the play they do. Yes, we used to get some laughs in London, but here in New York, they understand the underlying black humor that percolates all the way through this play. And we get a big kick out of that. I mean, it's nice to play Macbeth and get laughs of the right kind.
Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? No. This my hand will rather the multitudinous seas incarnadine, making the green one red.
Television personality and Dancing with the Stars finalist Mario Lopez makes his Broadway debut in the role of Zack in the hit revival of Michael Bennett's Pulitzer Prize and Tony-winning musical A Chorus Line. Broadway Beat was invited to visit with Mario to give you a sneak peek at his put-in rehearsal with the company just days before his opening night.
5, 6, 7, 8!
Well, I've been wanting to come to Broadway. I've been wanting to do it for a long time. It just, for one reason or another, just didn't work out schedule-wise. And this seemed to just make sense on a lot of levels. It worked out schedule-wise. They were very supportive about the other projects that I would be juggling at the same time. And I really like this show. You know, it's an iconic show, and I like the role, and it just made sense on many levels.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the role of Zack. I know you're just sort of starting. So when you read the script the first time and started working on him, what appealed to you to want to play him?
I like the fact that he was driving the piece, that he's a strong guy, confident guy. He was so consumed with himself and with his career that he neglected his personal relationships, romantic relationships, anybody in his life. And it's somebody that's totally not like me. And to be able to play a character like that and to show that side of me, which a lot of people aren't familiar with, I just thought that was a good opportunity. And then I like the fact, of course, that he got to dance, and and he was going to be around a lot of talented people.
Now, what's happening this afternoon? Today's your big put-in that's happening here at the theater, right?
Yeah, they're going to plug me in with the rest of the cast, and I think we're going to rehearse a little bit. I better go warm up at one point then.
Okay. One thing I want to ask is, a lot of people are going to be seeing a Broadway show for the very first time because you're in it, and you're going to change their lives too. What does that mean to you? No, not pressure at all, but just, we all had that growing up with somebody who we admired and said, my God, they're doing the theater, doing Broadway, and that's how we all first fell in love. How does that mean to you that so many people are going to come to see you and fall in love with the theater for the first time?
Well, I'm flattered that if people come, just because I happen to be in it, and if that's what it takes for them to come, then great, because I think theater's a great experience. I think they're going to fall in love, not only with the show, hopefully, but with just the experience of theater itself, and hopefully create just new fans of theater and people that maybe weren't interested in either that line of work or just experiencing what it all has to offer. I think it's a beautiful thing because it's such a beautiful culture. And I remember when I saw my first show, and I just sort of fell in love with it. And I think it connects with you emotionally, and you just sort of it just sort of makes you think a lot about yourself and how you look at things in art and appreciate all those forms.
Working on the role, you're such a busy guy, between extra and you have a wonderful book and you're doing a book tour and everything else. When did you find the time to learn the role?
I'll read the lines on the plane, in a taxi, a little bit before I go to bed. So I just kind of sort of make the time on the bike and at the gym. So, yeah, because he talks a lot and there's a lot of dialogue throughout. So you just got to learn it. You try not to memorize, you just got to learn it. And I think I've just tried to become him and learn to be his acted character, and I'm really liking it.
My final question for you is, leading up to today, what's been the best part of this chorus line experience for you so far?
So far, what I've enjoyed the most is the whole process. Everybody's been so great, from the producers to the choreographer and her assistants and the cast itself. Just the people involved in a chorus line, just in theater, they're all so nice and down to earth and very welcoming and very professional and very talented. So I'm learning a lot, and I just appreciate how cool they've been with me, and how just warm and great the family atmosphere has been. So it's made it an easy kind of transition from LA to New York, and it's made a lot of fun. Made me fired up to hopefully continue doing more stuff here.